I've been hyper analyzing Flesh and Blood for quite a bit of time now, man. I've really enjoyed just looking at the game, every aspect, and then just shoving a video online telling you all my opinions of what I see of the game and how I'm feeling, thoughts, opinions, ideas, conspiracy theories, anything that's going on in my brain that's hyper analyzing this thing, I throw out there. And there's something I've noticed over the last, I'd say, year and a half, 2 years ish, of what's going on with the core product. And I think it has evolved over this short window of time with the artwork style. At first I thought, yeah, maybe they're just trying something new. Maybe something's happening. And then I'm like, okay, things are kind of changing a little bit. And now firmly, mid 2025, I can firmly say that the product has changed. And I want to really just emphasize that fact to you. So if it's one fact that you get from this video, right, there's going to be a lot of opinions as well. But the fact is, the artwork style of Flesh and Blood has changed. It has functionally been updated, or it's just been different, right? And what I mean by that is since the beginning of the game, Welcome to Wraith, until 5 years afterwards, for a good 5 years, for 12 whole sets, the artwork style was high fantasy with a little bit of grit. Now, the style of the artwork, that is what is changing. The theme may have changed, you know? And theme is more like, okay, are we in Volcor? Is it going to be fiery and deserty? Or is it going to be Tales of Aria where it's lush and verdant? Is it going to be, you know, out in the high seas where things are piratey and there's ships and stuff and gold and treasure? Like, those are themes that have changed, and the coloring and everything of it has changed. I'm talking about more the style. So the style that I think has changed with this is it used to be high fantasy with a little bit of grit, and now it's more cartoonish fantasy. And I want to dig deeper and explain to you that fact of this style of the artwork has changed. And if you think about the product, right? Let's think about products that Legend Story Studios puts out into the ether where customers purchase them, right? There's two aspects, core aspects of a product for Flesh and Blood. One is the gameplay and how the game is played and all the mechanics and all that stuff. I'm not talking about that in this video. That's the first component. The other is the artwork and the card design, right? And that's more of where I'm talking about in this video, solely focused on the artwork and card design. And the two big heads of that since the beginning of the game, Robbie Wen and MJ Fatezio, who have made really great pieces of artwork over the course of Flesh and Blood's history. I collect the sealed booster boxes of each set. I set collect. I love the artwork of Flesh and Blood. It has been great. And then recently, I don't know what's updated. Something has changed where there's a little bit of this extra cartoony aspect of the fantasy, and I don't see much grit. So I want to break down really the products and how this happened over time. It didn't just, bam, update. It's been slowly dripping into the product over time in little percentages. So first, I want to give you the history of it. So first, I think this started with First Strike. That is the product. If you look at First Strike, the First Strike logo looks really like age 12 to 14 range. It doesn't look like the core demographic of what they're getting to the customer. But overall, the artwork style is really just... when you see it and you compare it to other products in the first 5 years of Flesh and Blood, it looks completely different. It looks very cartoony and it's fantasy. It's not like high fantasy. So that is where it started. I think after that you had Rosetta. So Rosetta overall was still in the realm of where Flesh and Blood normally is. It had like 10% of these cartoony cards. Then you go to High Seas, and I felt like High Seas is where you really stepped up with a lot more cartoony variants of the set. And personally, I didn't really see a big deal because it's pirate theme, right? So the pirate theme, you have a style that's a little bit more cartoony because of the theme, of the theme. I could see that, right? But I didn't notice this full shift until now we have Smash Palace and Super Slam. Smash Palace, there's like a purple playmat. I don't know why. Is the sand blood soaked and baked into a purple hue? Maybe. Is it to appeal to a certain target market? Probably more likely. And then you've got Super Slam, where on the Flesh and Blood website, for like the box art, the core product of your game, a booster box, it's pink and purple in the background, and the characters look very cartoony. They don't look like anything from the first 5 years of the game. Compare, look for yourself. Look at those cartoon versions and compare them to the other heroes in the other sets. Completely different. So that's really my whole basis of this. If you look at the products over time, it's been slowly edging up until now we're at Super Slam, and it's gotten like the percentage of cartoony cards has gone way up compared to the past. And I want to give you a little analogy because I feel like there's going to be people out there who think that artwork is subjective and we can't make any facts anymore. But here's what it's like. Let's say I pitch you an idea. Okay, here's Bronson's idea. I want your money as an investor on this business opportunity that I'm doing. I have revolutionary technology with a small team where we can manufacture orange juice that tastes much better than our competitors, and it's going to capture a large market share of orange juice drinkers out there in the market that want the best orange juice out there, right? And none of our competitors are going to be able to do it because we have proprietary technology that makes the infusion of the orange essence much better in our orange juice versus anyone else, and we're going to grow great, right? And after this, after 5 years of operation, we're going to capture a huge market share of individuals out there. But we're not done there yet. Even though we've made a really successful company over 5 years making the best damn orange juice ever, it's not good enough. We need the dairy drinkers. So here's what we're going to do. In year 6, in our products, we're going to slowly implement every month maybe 5% milk, 95% orange juice. Then we're going to do 75% orange juice and 25% milk. And then we're going to dial it back again. And we're going to do 92% orange juice and 8% milk. Until, bam, after 2 years, we're going to go 60% orange juice, 40% milk. Because here's the thing. We want to capture that extra market share of milk drinkers who don't like orange juice. That's why we're adding in a little bit of milk at a time and evening out before over time you eventually have this Arnold Palmer type drink of an orange juice and milk combination, right? That is what we're going to. So if I pitched you this idea, right, rant over, or example over, you'd think, okay, the first half of your idea was great. I love that pitch. But the second part, why don't you just make it a second product? Why are you making a milk and orange juice hybrid? That is going to seriously mess people's stomachs up. The orange juice people won't like it because it has too much milk. The milk people won't like it because it has too much orange juice. And that is really where I'm going, is that when you do these changes to your product and you want more market share, you change your product. And a really good example of this, I brought this example up in the past, is Kikkoman. They used to be a really tiny company making soy sauce in Japan before they got big. And you know what put them on the map? Teriyaki sauce. Teriyaki sauce is for Americans. They know Americans like beef, and they wanted to make their soy sauce put on beef. So literally, they analyzed the market over America. They knew they weren't selling any soy sauce there. And they said, okay, how do we change our product to match the customer instead of changing our customer to match the product? And what they did is they made a new product called teriyaki sauce that had a bunch of flavors and essences in it and herbs and spices that catered to steaks and meats, and then pushed that onto the American market, and it was extremely successful. And that's what my big point is with this artwork style change for Flesh and Blood. I'm not sure why a percentage of artwork is being pushed into the product over a course of time versus just having a separate product. And you might say, Bronson, they've just done this with Smash Palace. It is a completely different side product that is a board box, a board game in a box of Flesh and Blood. And I'd say yes. Honestly, Smash Palace, I don't have any concerns over it. Do I think it's kind of weird that there's a purple playmat? Do I think that new players and people who aren't really good with board games will get a little confused with the rules? Yeah, sure. I have my little thoughts and opinions on it, but overall, when it comes to this aspect, they created a teriyaki sauce. Now, with First Strike, the reason why that's different is the communication from LSS has been, hey, this is the first product that you're supposed to play when you get into Flesh and Blood. Like, this is our intention. It's the first product that you play. I think instead it should have been, this is a product for people who have never played a card game in their life and are trying to play Flesh and Blood, and you're catering the artwork more to that group. Okay. The way that this really affects me and the way I think that this isn't good is when you have the core product affected by these decisions to majorly change your product, being the artwork style. We've seen it in Rosetta just a little bit, just a teensy bit, probably like 5 to 8%. But then big update in High Seas. You see a lot more cartoony artwork, but it kind of blends into the theme, so it's really hard to spot if you're not really looking for it. And then also now it's gotten to a level that's probably 35% milk and 65% orange juice with this new set, Super Slam. Like, it's gotten, like, there's like pink and purple on the front, and throughout Flesh and Blood's history of all the booster boxes that I collect, none of them really had a figure or a person or a character on the front. Now we're having that a lot more with the new set and with High Seas. So you can see that there's a shift in the marketing materials and the style of the product overall. So, you know, overall, I just want to summarize this, is that I'm trying to display a fact. If there's only one thing that you get a takeaway from this, right, that you and I can agree with, is that the product has changed in a big way. The style of the artwork has changed. It's taken a little bit of time to see how the products have come out, but over the last 1-2 years, we can firmly say the artwork style is changing, right? And even though we don't know what's going to happen in the next year or so, maybe it reverts back. Who knows what's going to happen? But from what we've seen over like a year and a half of activity of products, we can safely pin at this point in time in mid-2025, the artwork style has changed. That's the fact that we're going with here. Now, you might still be asking, why? Why does this matter, Bronson? You've convinced me with perpetually saying it over and over that the artwork style has changed. It has gone from a high fantasy with a little bit of grit to cartoonish fantasy. Let's assume that you're right on that, right? Why does it matter? Why? Right? And it's a real big issue because I think it goes against the core fundamentals of marketing, which is a target market. So the core fundamentals is you identify a target market, right? And then of like what type of individual is buying your product, and then you cater your product to that market. Like, if this is your sizable market of the people who are interested in your product, what kind of stuff do they like? And then what kind of stuff can we cater our product to match their customer? And overall, TCGs appeal to men who, like, the main core demographic are men between the ages of 14 to 25. I'd say that's the core for all of TCGs. For Flesh and Blood specifically, it's most likely men between the ages of 25 and 35. Let's be real. They've captured the older individuals of the market. That's kind of their niche. They're trying to move into a younger demographic with this style update. And I understand that. Overall, I know that the game has to change a little bit with the artwork, right? With how the game is displayed, so you don't like completely alienate the market that you're trying to get into. I totally understand that. And for the last 3 years, I've been saying, hey, I think Flesh and Blood should cater more to college kids and more kids in high school. I think that's a big market share that's untapped, right? I've been saying this in videos for a long time now, right? I knew that things were gonna get a little bit dialed down, right? Instead of like women who are gouging their eyeballs out, right? And you see blood squirting everywhere, or certain aspects of people stabbing each other and like ripping them to shreds and blood's going everywhere. I know that that has to be dialed down a little bit to cater to a younger demographic. That I knew, right? And I was okay with. But a style change, and this style, a cartoonish fantasy, doesn't really capture, I feel, the fifth, like, I feel like the core demographic that Legend Story Studios should be focusing on is 16 through 24. This style, I feel, doesn't appeal to that group, right? Let's just be real. And let's be real and just say the fact that the majority of the market, the customers who are buying the products, are men between the ages of 25 to 35. And when you look at a product like Super Slam and you see the sanitized characters who don't really have much masculinity in them, which is odd because I thought this was supposed to be a WWE type, homage. And then it's supposed to be that, but then we're going to take like all the masculinity out of it, where we've got like, Shrek Jr., and then we've got like Lyeth in the background, who's a creepy dude who doesn't look cool, right? Like, we're gonna get these types of things in our it just doesn't make sense, and I don't think it caters to men. I'm just gonna say it. It's just how it is, and that's more of an opinion, right? The art style has changed, but then the question is, does this appeal to your core demographic? And I don't think it does. And overall, I know the biggest thing that people are going to say is, oh, well, Bronson, Flesh and Blood is for everyone. It should appeal to everyone. And people in unrepresented groups should feel like they have things in Flesh and Blood that they identify with, right? And that they want and that they want to buy. And I understand that. I fully understand that side of the argument. And if you are so passionate about that, I will ask you a simple question. Why don't nail salons and spas cater to people like me? Why aren't there nice sports memorabilia in a salon and nice a big screen TV with the football games playing? Why aren't there things in nail salons that cater to me? And then why aren't there spas that also cater to me? I'm a man, and I like going to spas with the whole, steam room. That actually is a really nice thing that I like to do at spas. But overall, I feel out of place. I feel like I don't belong because there's not things at spas that cater to me. I feel like it's more feminine in nature in spas. Now, I don't like the nail salon. I'm not going to lie about that. And I don't think I've ever been to a nail salon. But I've seen pictures, and they don't cater to me. So if your logic is that you think that Flesh and Blood should cater to markets that aren't just males between 25 and 35, well, then shouldn't these spas and nail salons cater to me? And the answer is no, they shouldn't. Because if they did, they would negatively affect their business, because their core market of women would feel alienated. They'd walk in and see the sports game on and be like, the heck is this? I like a nice environment, or I like a whatever environment they like, right? They don't want to walk in and see all these things. They want the places that they go to cater to them. So, that's the big aspect of this, is that alienating your core consumer has a possibility of occurring. Especially the more milk you put in the orange juice, the more chances you're going to alienate your market. And overall, I think that they've gotten away. I don't want to say getting away. They have implemented this over the last year and a half, where they've changed their style, like in little increments over time, and getting people used to the milk in their orange juice. But I feel like there's going to be a point in which people kind of just like step back and like, whoa, there's a little bit too much milk in this orange juice. I don't know if I want to buy this anymore. Why don't I just buy like things that are just orange juice and not just a combination of this? Like, I don't like this extra stuff in my product. And you might say, Bronson, well, what about the big three? The big three have done this. They've changed their artwork style over the years. It's no big deal. And to that effect, I've thought about this a lot, as you can tell. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Have done more of a, how you say, definition and graphics card updates to their game. They've made more DPI and wrinkles on the Pikachu and of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters, whatever, right? They've made more pixels, and they've just updated the graphics, essentially, right? That's all they've done. Now, Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering, you can say, okay, they've made SpongeBob and Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings and all this other stuff. Bronson, that's a style update. And I'd say, okay, yeah, that is. But they're capturing different markets out there, right? They're capturing the IP, the intellectual property of all those different people who like those IPs, who would normally not give a shit about Magic, and they make them care about Magic and bring them into the game. And that's why that works out. And they, only care about the shareholder revenue. But long story short, that's why changing the style for them works. For Flesh and Blood, they're not doing it for an IP. They're doing it, in my opinion, to grab other market shares out there that aren't just men between the ages of 25 to 35. I think it looks like they're appealing a little bit more to women and a little bit more to like a really younger demographic. And I'm not talking about like 16 to 24. I'm talking about like maybe 14 or 13. They're like really sanitizing these things, that like the products, in my opinion, right? And I don't know for sure. I don't work for Legend Story Studios, but you can see the artwork style for yourself. It's a lot more cartoony, and it may have a good chance of alienating a lot of the core people who collect the cards mainly. Because the players, here's what Legend Story Studios may be thinking is that, hey, we've got such a big player base and card prices solely directed on demand of the cards based off of pro play. We don't really need as much of those collectors anymore. We can just do whatever we want with the artwork, and people will buy the card even if the card has like black and white X's and O's on it. If it's a 7 attack 3 defense Command and Conquer, people are gonna buy it because it's a better CNC, right? Like, people are gonna buy cards based off of the gameplay and not of the artwork. So they have more leniency to change the artwork, and that is true at this given point in time. I think it is true, and maybe they are trying to make it for a bunch of people. And my point is, like, hey, maybe they're standing for something. Maybe they're saying Flesh and Blood is for everyone. We should make everyone feel included and make cards that appeal to a wider range of audience, not just men between 25 and 35. And that could be their goal. And if it is, it may work out, but you may alienate a lot of your target market. Think about it. If you take a spa that has all these nice feminine things and nice Zen music in the back and try to cater to too many people, and you have like, I don't know, like a game room in there, and you have, a sports screen TV, and then you have, what about the cats and dogs owners? They need a place to put their cats and dogs. So you have a kennel in the back as well for the dog owners. And then you have people who like art, so you have an art station as well. If you go to the spa and you're like, I just want to sit down, I want to lay back, listen to Zen music, and get some, things going. I don't want any of this mess. You're going to alienate those people. And the core concept of this, really, right, if you just want to have it in layman's terms, is you can't please everyone, right? When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. When you make orange juice, people like the orange juice. When you make the milk, people like the milk. When you make orange juice and milk, you have a bad stomach reaction and things aren't very good. Trust me, I've done it before. So, in closing, I've stated my opinion, and of course, I'm not in favor of this. I like the first 5 years of the game. I like the artwork style of that. And again, this is no reflection on the game overall, the gameplay. I think especially with this new set, Super Slam, and I think Chris Gearing is the one who is the master designer of it. I'm sure it's going to be a really well designed set. I'm not speaking, talking crap about that. And especially with High Seas, I think High Seas overall was a really banger of a product overall. Like, I don't mean to disenfranchise a lot of stuff that they're doing, right? Like, the game overall is growing, it's doing good, the gameplay is really good, and they have the best competitive scene out there in the market. Even though the market and people out there don't want to admit it, it has the best competitive gameplay out of any TCG, and it has had that for like at least the last year or the last 2 years. Like, period, end of sentence. Before that, you could, there's a little subjectivity. You could compare it to other stuff. No, Flesh and Blood is out of the park. Great with their competitive scene, and I love to see it. And I think that is what they should focus on, right? All I'm saying is they had a certain artwork for the first 5 years of the game, and then they updated it in the last year or two, right? And they have been slowly, incrementally making the style a little bit more cartoony fantasy instead of the high fantasy with a little bit of grit that I personally love. Now, let me make some stuff a little bit clear. I know that you may say a takeaway of this, oh, Bronson doesn't like the people who run Legend Story Studios and stuff. That's not true at all, right? I'm not in contact with them. I'm not friends with them. I don't need to be friends with them. I love the game. They're doing a great job and they make a really great game, right? And I don't care who works there, right? I don't care if they have, inmates from, South Korea, 100 inmates who are, logging an hour every day. I don't care if they have squirrels with Neuralink in their brains. I don't care who is over there, what their beliefs are, what they do, what their personalities with, and I don't need to be direct friends with them. Would I like that? Yeah, it'd be nice. But I don't care who works there. All I care about at the end of the day is the product. That's all I care about. That's all I analyze. I analyze the product and everything that going on with Flesh and Blood. That's all I care about. And when I see these products over the last year and a half have a little bit more milk in them than orange juice, I'm like, what is this? What's happening? Like, why you do this, right? What's happening to my boy is essentially the meme here, right? So that's really what I'm going with. I wanted to make that really clear. So I don't care who works there. I don't care, what their thoughts and opinions are on different things, or if they like me or not. I do care about that. I definitely want them to like me. But overall, like, I don't need that in order to talk about the game, because I love the game. But I've seen this happen, and I just wanted to make a lot of people aware that this is happening. And overall, I'm always going to love, like, the first 4 sets, and I'm probably going to collect a lot more of the beginning sets. And, if certain sets don't appeal to me, I won't buy them, right? Am I encouraging you to get out of the game? No, not at all. I think Flesh and Blood is the best damn game of my lifetime. Something could change in the future, but I'll never say like it's a bad game in the future. It's an amazing game. The gameplay overall is brilliant, and the card design, and it's honestly fascinated me to to great lengths that they've done such a great job over a course of time, right? Honestly, I didn't know when in the beginning of the game if they'd continue this long. It was just hard to tell. But seeing that they have, and that the meta's like pretty damn good, and that they've had such a big card pool to, where players can play with any card since the inception of the game, like, they're doing a lot of great stuff. I don't mean to disenfranchise everything they're doing. A lot of things on fire. I'm just saying the artwork style has changed. That is a fact. Period, in a sentence. The artwork style has changed. Let's talk about it. And if you're listening to me this far in the video, basically my call to action, if you will, if you're a content creator, talk about it. If you're a person out there, talk about it. Tell your opinions, feelings. If you like it, say that opinion to LSS. Please do. But if you don't like it, just speak up. Say, and here's the main question is, here's the artwork for the first 12 sets of the game, and here's the artwork that they're currently making. Which one do you like better? And the consumers of Flesh and Blood really have to answer that question. And that is the question LSS is asking the consumers in a side type of way, is which artwork style do you like better? Which one is it? And that's really kind of where I want to lead off, is that just say your opinion. If you disagree with me, that's okay. I'm okay with you disagreeing with me. But I think that the old artwork style appealed to a larger portion of Flesh and Blood purchasers than the new artwork style. That's my opinion, right? You can agree or disagree with me all day. I'm okay with that, right? I definitely am. Just my biggest concern is that I think this is a bigger deal than it seems. I think that a lot of people who like the old artwork, which is the majority, won't really vocalize this opinion because it's really kind of like under the radar. It's kind of like in their subconscious that they don't really think about it as much. I think it's one of those things where the loud voices out there are going to be the small minority, and the big and like the majority of the people are just going to stay silent, and it's going to go on for a couple of years, and then things are going to happen. And overall, I think the game is going to last for the next 10, 15 years at least, right? At least I think the game is going to go on for a very long time. But I think that by updating the artwork style to appeal to more different groups that are outside your target market, it's going to hinder the overall player retention. And I don't think the market share is in there for having a product that is a little bit diluted, right? That is the orange juice and milk combination. I think if they want to do that, they can. Just make a different product, especially if you're catering to the 15 to 14-year-olds, right? The whole point of the whole appealing to that group can't be a game called Flesh and Blood with the age limit of 16 plus in your box. If those types of individuals ask their parents to buy them a Flesh and Blood product, think about a parent who knows nothing about the game. They'd be like, no, like, here's a Pokemon box, get on my face. They're not gonna say that. But the funny thing, I was at the USPS store, right? I was shipping a box of Flesh and Blood, right? Or like a case. I was using the case, and the guy looked at the box and he's like, "Is there blood in this box?" I laughed so hard, but of course I said no. But that's my point. Is like people who aren't in the know of what Flesh and Blood is, they take that visceral wordage and they have a reaction to it, right? It's a more adult name. In my opinion, if they are really keen on getting that group, create a new game. Don't name it Flesh and Blood. Name it, I don't know, Battle People or something like that. Or, I don't know, whatever. Maybe Battle's a little bit too a visceral word. Anyway, you just create a different product. Just like Kikkoman, the soy sauce company. They're a good point of reference. Instead of getting your soy sauce and updating it with all those different herbs and spices, right? And say, hey, this is our new soy sauce. Then the Japanese market would be like, what is this? I don't like this. I've been eating soy sauce for 10 years from this company. I don't like this new soy sauce, right? And then the company's like, oh, we're trying to appeal to our American market. That's why we updated the formula. Isn't that great? It's for everyone now. And then people in Japan were like, no, I'm going to buy actual soy sauce that I'm accustomed to from another brand, right? You alienate your customers. You can't please everyone. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing nobody.